We are going to be looking at some creepy videos, strange and odd news stories, and as always, let's go and get right into today's video. Make no mistake about it, we definitely have a lot to get into today. For example, we have a very interesting quote-unquote conspiracy theory happening over at X that's really shaking things up. But before we go ahead and get into that, I do want to go ahead and talk about this right here. This may have slipped under a lot of people's radars. This information did come out earlier this year, but when we talk about AI surveillance, we usually talk about individuals like Larry Ellison, Peter the Reptile Thiel, Amazon and Flock, Palantir, and so forth. But did you know that NASA was caught purchasing a controversial AI surveillance software? Continue to read this article from Futurism.com. It says, according to documents obtained by 404 Media, NASA sent out a purchase order for a 1-year license to use Clearview AI, an extremely controversial tech startup which has previously been accused of fostering a privacy nightmare scenario. So what does it do? Clearview's value proposition is basically to scrape billions of photos from Facebook, Google, and Twitter without anybody's consent, and then charge cops to use all that private data to help identify suspects. And on top of all this, its flawed system has also landed at least one innocent man in jail. But I guess it gets the job done because not only do the police use it, but also ICE and the International Criminal Police Organization use it as well. And they know the clients because of a data breach in Clearview's internal security, which allowed outside actors to get a hold of the list, which, like this article says, is a red flag for a private company which holds billions of photos for a person of interest style crime fighting and other information. But at the end of the day, this product is meant for tracking people, so you can see why ICE and the police would want it. But why would NASA want it? So 404 Media reached out to NASA and asked them, why do you want it? And their response was, Clearview is the largest known public-only database of its kind and provides high-level security and auditing functions better than other platforms. They went on to say that Clearview AI is the only technology platform available in the US that offers its unique combination of web crawling and facial recognition capabilities while being in full compliance with data privacy laws. Even though they were fined for an interesting number, $33 million for an illegal database, so we know where this rabbit hole is leading to, and this illegal database contained billions of faces taken from social media and the internet. The funny part is, I do not go out my way to look for this number. The 33 appears in almost every suspicious news story, so this means that fine was definitely bogus. But that really doesn't uncover the why. That doesn't explain why a quote-unquote space agency that, from what the public is told anyway, is supposed to explore things in space. But for those that know that NASA just means never a straight answer. But what's interesting, in the next segment, we might just get a straight answer from NASA about this whole mysterious fog situation. So again, why do you need a powerful web crawling facial recognition program? That's never answered. The article theorizes that it's entirely possible that NASA bought the license as a trial run for its on-site security. The space agency holds details of its security efforts very close to its chest, though we know they're pretty serious about keeping their facilities locked down. But as of right now, there has not been an official explanation given as to why NASA has a powerful facial recognition tool that can track people down. But talking about NASA, people have noticed that the strange fog has returned, and they are saying that it's giving them a headache, it's making them feel unwell, and so forth, what we have seen with the 2024 mysterious fog. But they are also saying that this fog looks a little more unusual than before, to the point they are saying that it looks like smart dust or nanoparticles. For example, this video right here, I'm going to go ahead and play the video, but afterwards, I'm going to talk about something that a lot of us should know about a certain fog type called utility fog, and it's an article coming straight from NASA.
All right, beautiful people, I want to show you something. When I tell you there's fog in the air, particles that drop down on us. Okay? Now, it ain't too hard to figure out. Do you see the difference in them? Yeah, we breathe it every day. Let me find a good angle. It's not raining. It's not nothing, you all. But But just goes to show you, look, there's two different types. There's a whole misty. And y'all gonna say, this is not hurting us. Try to zero in what a light is. Oh, sorry. But do you see, people? Do we see? Smart dust fog. Just say.
So like I said, she believes it's smart dust, but look at this. This is coming from NASA back in 1993, and they call it utility fog. And I'm not going to read all of it, just some of it. It goes on to say, active polymorphic material, utility fog, can be designed as a conglomeration of 100 micron robotic cells called foglets. Such robots could be built with the techniques of molecular nanotechnology, controllers with processing capabilities of 1000 MIPs per cubic micron, and electric motors with power densities of 1 milliwatt per cubic micron are assumed. Utility fog should be capable of simulating most everyday materials, that's creepy, dynamically changing its form and properties, and forms a substrate for an integrated virtual reality and telerobotics. But this gets even better. Listen to this. It goes on to say, imagine a microscopic robot. It has a body about the size of a human cell and 12 arms sticking out in all directions. A bucket full of such robots might form a robot crystal by linking their arms up into a lattice structure. Now take a room with people, furniture, and other objects in it. It's still mostly empty air. Fill the air completely full of robots. The utility fog operates in two modes. First, the naive mode, where the robots act like cells, and each robot occupies a particular position and does a particular function in a given object. The second, or fog mode, has the robots acting more like the pixels on a TV screen, or the little particles of fog that people would see outside when they shine their light on it. The utility fog, which is simulating air, needs to be impalpable. One would like to be able to walk through a fog-filled room without the feeling of having been cast into a block of solid lucite. It is also desirable to be able to breathe while using the fog in this way. To this end, the robots representing empty space constantly run a fluid flow simulation of what the air would be doing if the robots were not there. Then each robot does what the air it displaces would do in its absence. So basically what they're saying is that you would be able to breathe it in like any normal air and you would not even notice. But listen to this. How can one breathe when the air is a solid mass of machines? Actually, it isn't really solid. The foglets only occupy about 10% of the actual volume of the air. They need lots of elbow room to move around easily. There's plenty of air left to breathe. As far as physically breathing it, we set up a pressure-sensitive boundary which translate air motions on one side to fog motions on the other. It might even be possible to have the fog continue the air simulation all the way into the lungs. So when you're saying this fog is coming out at a very unusual time, and someone says to you, well, that's normal, that's what normal everyday fog looks like, it's just fog, bro. Well, during what time in our history that these little robots that were simulating fog were released to the public, at what time was it not just fog and it was these robots? Then they go on to want us to understand why they would want to fill the air with microscopic robots, only to go through so much trouble to make it seem like they were not even there and they would just simulate everyday fog. It also lists the general properties and uses, but I'm going to go ahead and skip to the bottom right here where it says, another item of infrastructure that will become increasingly important in the future is information processing. Nanotechnology will allow us to build some really monster computers. Although each foglet will possess a comparatively small processor, which is to say the power of a current day supercomputer, there are about 16 million foglets to a cubic inch. When those foglets are not doing anything else, for example, when they are simulating the interior of a solid object or air that nothing is passing through at the moment, they can be used as a computing resource. So what are they saying? They are saying that we are technically breathing in tiny computers that are going throughout our bodies into our brains. And then you have to think of things like 5G. They even go on to list communications and control. One day I may do a bigger breakdown on this because this is crazy. And NASA says this was just hypothetical. This wasn't something they were doing. BS. That's complete BS. They were telling us this back in 1993. decades later, I am sure they are well more advanced with these nanoparticles that we are breathing in. What's even eerier is the fact that not too long ago, between 2016 and 2025, especially in 2025, it came out that they were finding a lot of these plastics inside people's brains. And what I'm going to assume that they were finding were just these nanoparticles. And it all connects to the technology, the Wi-Fi, the 5G, and so forth. But I do want to go ahead and make sure I say, for YouTube purposes only, this is just for entertainment. And again, NASA said that this was just hypothetical. So if anybody says to you, that's just fog, don't make a big deal about it, send them this link. I'm going to go ahead and post it in the comment section below and the description of this video. This video comes from Moon Henry, who's also been noticing the strange fog in his location as well.
Y'all are not going to believe this. This right here is not snow, and this up here is not a swamp. These are both in my neighborhood last night, and it gets a whole lot weirder in 1 second. If I told y'all I saw a crazy dense fog in the sky yesterday morning, and it fell to the ground at nighttime, would you believe me? That's a mailbox. This looks like a horror movie. This is just a video in my neighborhood last night, like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. And no, fog falling from high up in the sky is not normal to the extent where Google thought it was a metaphor. So the past 2 weeks, there's been reports coming from all around the United States, like when I showed you New York, as well as Europe and other places about this really, really thick fog. Now completely 1000% unrelated, of course. I've been feeling like trash for 2 days in a row. Hey, how long has this fog been going on for? 2 days? For about 2 days, completely unrelated. This one right here was by Gubba Homestead in the middle of the day.
So yesterday, Elon Musk had rolled out a new feature on, I think it was yesterday or Friday, Elon Musk had rolled out a new feature on X. And I want to ask you all something. Do you think what I'm about to say was intentional, or do you think it was just an accident? And like this article right here that was published on November 23rd says, this feature had thrown both the MAGA, Republicans, and Democrats worlds online into chaos, because several profiles online that have pushed certain narratives within the United States, certain agendas, are now being found to have been operating from outside the United States. Like for example, on the MAGA side, this individual right here, MAGA Nation X, who has over 300,000 subscribers, and his account says, "Standing strong with President Trump, America first, Patriot voice for we the people." So you would think this account is based in the United States. He pushes a lot of strong right-wing talking points. When that feature was released and people went to his account to see where his account was based out of, come to their surprise, his account was based out of Eastern Europe, which includes Russia. And because these people thought they were getting their talking points from somebody within the United States and not another country that may have their own agendas, they start unfollowing this individual in droves, and they're leaving all these type of comments about his account being based in Eastern Europe. But this gets even better because, like I said, it's not just Republicans, it's not just MAGA, but both sides are being played like puppets. Now, before I go on, you may be saying, well, these individuals may be using VPNs to change their location. So this individual may be within the United States, but his VPN is putting him into Eastern Europe. But hold on, when Elon Musk rolled this feature out, he made it so we were able to distinguish who was using a VPN and who was not, all due to this icon right here. So this account right here, Republicans Against Trump, who have close to 1 million followers, they are pushing a lot of narratives against Trump, bashing Trump, and they even list themselves on their profile that they are from the United States. Well, again, when this feature was rolled out, come to find out they're using a VPN pretending to be from the United States. Now on the Democrat side, this individual who says he's from New Jersey, and he's a proud Democrat professional MAGA hunter, and he has Trump derangement syndrome, well, his account is based out of Kenya. And there are also a lot of other popular individuals that push certain narratives and agendas to get people fighting against each other. Their accounts, come to find out, are based out of India, meaning that it's possible, more than likely, yes, that they're bots. You have people leaving hateful comments against white people leaving hateful comments against black people, and so forth, making it seem like there's a lot of racial division and hatred within the United States. But come to find out, those that are leaving these comments are not even from the United States. And like I said, more than likely are not even real people. But this becomes even more delicious. Matter of fact, this gets downright scrumptious. When it comes to the Department of Homeland Security, the United States Department of Homeland Security, and they have been posting a lot of interesting things on X lately, well, people found out that their account is based out of Tel Aviv, Israel, and we don't see the shield and the exclamation mark, meaning that this account is actually based out of Israel and it's connected via the Israel App Store. But who's really surprised, right? I mean, the Department of Homeland Security does have this PDF, which I will go ahead and link below, and it's titled Agreement Between the Government of the United States of America and the Government of the State of Israel on Cooperation in Science and Technology for Homeland Security Matters. The Government of the United States of America and the Government of the State of Israel, hereinafter referred to individually as a party and collectively as the parties. So it's basically talking about how the Department of Homeland Security is basically owned by the United States and Israel. So after about an hour rolls by, after people had taken videos and photos showing that these accounts are based out of other countries, telling people, look, there are people and or bots in other countries pushing narratives and agendas on you, getting you to fight and so forth, the new feature that was rolled out, X had taken it down. And then about 4 or 5 hours later on that day, the feature comes back up again. But now, after these accounts had shown that they were based out of other countries, they are now showing that they are based within the United States. But people are not buying it. They're like, nope. But here's my problem, because we do have other news agencies talking about this. Like, for example, this article from the Daily Beast is titled Top MAGA Influencers Accidentally Unmasked as Foreign Trolls. But this is incorrect, because it's not just MAGA. It's also people claiming to be Republicans against Trump and also people claiming to be Democrats. All sides are being played like puppets, and these articles are being very shady. So I was tagged in this news story that came out not that long ago. These residents in Whitehorse, they keep hearing this very mysterious sound that sounds like machinery, but they do not know where it's coming from. And this is something I've spoken about time and time again, that it's coming from below.
That sound has been at the heart of several complaints over the last few weeks in Whitehorse.
It's almost like a deep hum or a whirl. The first couple times I heard it, I was like, well, who's building something, or who's got like a generator running, or who has something in the neighborhood that they don't know is so disruptive. But it's not in the neighborhood.
The Yukon NDP leader is not the only one looking for an explanation.
We're in a neighborhood that's like surrounded by noise, but there's a new sound. It turns out it's being heard all over the city of Whitehorse.
While some say it's the same noise they've been complaining about in Riverdale coming from Yukon Energy's diesel generators, other people are hearing it for the first time in opposite neighborhoods such as Tekini and Hillcrest.
And it would just be an annoying hum. Like, it sounds like electrical, but it's new.
I had been wondering about some sound. I noticed it. I've been walking to the pool, and I was thinking they were snow plowing Valley View, but then I have friends at Valley View, and then when I go visit them, it's not plowed, so that's not the noise.
I noticed a few times the last while when we open our windows, there's like a low mechanical humming sound happening. I thought someone was maybe using machinery, but it seems quite repetitive and random.
So, what is that noise? These neighborhoods are all near major roads or the airport or power plants, but so far, no official explanation. The city of Whitehorse says it doesn't know where it's coming from. A spokesperson with the Whitehorse Airport says it's business as usual over there. And at the Yukon Energy Corporation,
it's highly unlikely that the noise from our generators is getting that far, anywhere further than like Riverdale. We're thinking that it's not coming from the diesel, especially places like Valley View and Tekini. But at the same time, the sound acoustics are a tricky thing, so we don't know for sure.
McKenna says the facility's diesel generators are running more than usual due to high demand, and with that comes more noise. The corporation says it's searching for any abnormal sound levels in recent weeks. Until then, Whitehorse residents will continue to wonder, what's that noise?
Unless it's identified, we'll just continue on.
Virginie Anne, CBC News, Whitehorse.
Wells Fargo has a patent on the Smart Dust. And I read it, so you don't have to. That's you, that's your phone, that's the Smart Dust. From here on out, you shall be known as 202. But first, how is 5G connected to Smart Dust? 5G is literally how they are going to collect data from Smart Dust in real time. It will allow them to collect large volumes of data simultaneously. Challenges and concerns? Just privacy issues. So as you know from the previous video, there are a lot of uses for Smart Dust, so how would Wells Fargo use Smart Dust? Well, they're going to make sure 202 isn't 203. But how are they going to do that? By performing facial and body recognition. So 202 is attempting to initiate a payment using a mobile device. The base station can send instructions to activate Smart Dust device 210 to authenticate user 202. The motes that make up Smart Dust can be suspended in the air and surround or be near user 202 while collecting data. In some embodiments, the nodes can be self-propelled and able to move around. So they can control these things. Some motes may move passively on the wind or using Brownian motion. The motes may also be carried by a user and released when the user attempts to make a purchase using a mobile payment or a credit card payment. I mean, am I reading this correctly? They could be carried by the user and released when the user attempts to make a purchase, like they can just fly away? It will be performing facial and body recognition. The optical data can also be used to gather biometric data, as in the weight, your facial recognition, your fingerprint data. In conjunction with one or more sets of data from the other sensors, the audio data can be used to authenticate your voice, can be used to detect your heart rate, your blood pressure, and other biometric data. Also can detect your body temperature and your breathing rate. It can also measure magnetic fields and read any RFID tags that the user may carry. And then, of course, there's GPS data to see the location of the Smart Dust. From everything I've read, Smart Dust is definitely the future of smart cities. Here's the thing about Smart Dust, is none of us would ever know. If it's on us, breathe it in, how would we know?
That video came from Peggy Bolton, and going back to that NASA article, we're not going to know. And if we see it with our own eyes, if we put light to it, we can see the particles. It's just going to be written off as just fog.
Can we go from the patterns of your brain when you're looking at an image to reconstructing the image? So the way this worked was they put human beings inside an fMRI machine. They had them look at images and figure out what the patterns are, like translate from image to brain patterns. And then, of course, they would hide the image. So this is a image of a giraffe that the computer has never seen. It's only looking at the fMRI data, and this is what the computer thinks the human is seeing. Yeah. Now, to get state of the art, here's where the combinatorial aspects, why you can start to see these are all the same demo. To do this kind of imaging, the latest paper, the one that happened even after this, which is already better, uses stable diffusion, uses the thing that you use to make art. Like, what should a thing that you use to make art have anything to do with reading your brain? But of course, it goes further. So in this one, they said, can they understand the inner monologue, the things you're saying to yourself in your own mind? Mind you, by the way, when you dream, like your visual cortex runs in reverse, so your dreams are no longer safe. But we'll try this. So they had people watch a video and just narrate what was going on in the video in their mind. So there's a woman, she gets hit in the back, she falls over. This is what the computer reconstructed the person thinking. See a girl, looks just like me, get hit in the back, and then she is knocked off. So our thoughts, are starting to be decoded. Yeah, just think about what this means for authoritarian states.
So this is a segment I had included in another video. Now, for whatever reason, I could not play it on Minutes of Horror, so I had to add it to my other account, Hours of Horror, but I thought I'd go ahead and play it on here as well because this is very important. Go ahead and talk about this doozy. This was published by Variety yesterday. Other news agencies are talking about this, but the United Kingdom declines to publicly release the data of how many people passed away from the C-19 jab. But why? I thought the jab was safe and FDA approved. Why won't you release the data? The article continues to say the facts. The United Kingdom Health Security Agency has declined to publish data mapping the C-19 jab doses to how many people passed away, citing several concerns, including that releasing the information could cause public distress or anger, among bereaved relatives. That's interesting. What does that sound like to you? That really sets off a lot of red flags that a lot of people passed away from this as opposed to a few. The article goes on to say that according to a cross-party group of MPs and peers who called for its release on an anonymized basis, the data has been provided to pharmaceutical companies. Campaign group Us For Them sought the anonymized data for 2 years through Freedom of Information laws, but the Information Commissioner ultimately upheld UKHSA's decision not to release it. And that's the thing, even when it comes to FOIA requests here in the States, they can fail, and if they do, you do not get your money back. But this is still useful to show that they are indeed hiding something, and they are. The UKHSA argued that publishing the data could lead to misinformation and have an adverse impact on jab uptake, while also citing privacy concerns, saying there was a risk of identifying individuals. Why does this sound awfully familiar to the files, releasing the files? They said they don't want to do so because it may jeopardize identifying victims. We don't want to go ahead and release jab data because it'll identify individuals. They are such sick and evil, twisted people. I cannot believe they're using the old Jeffrey playbook as to why they're not releasing the jab to pass away ratio. I mean, they should have just said, we're not releasing the data because of swamp gas, weather balloons, and glitches. Other news articles are saying that if this data gets out, it will jeopardize the well-being and mental health of the families and friends of those who passed. Oh, these people, it's so bad. It's so bad they would go with that excuse. A part of me also feels that they're not releasing this data because the so-called powers that be have another big event planned for the future where once again they're going to want people to get jabbed, and releasing this data could compromise that. And that might not be too far off. Reading from another article, it says this group again requested this information, but the government health body argued that publishing the data could lead to misinformation that would have an adverse impact on jab uptake by the public. Them being secretive about it just makes it look even worse because in my mind, if they have to hide it, it must be really bad. I'm talking about possibly millions. I wouldn't doubt it whatsoever. And for some companies, it's always been in the name.
Was quite interesting. So, in Latin, AstraZeneca. You ready?
And does anybody remember this? This video comes from Tea with Pravi. And what's crazy is that she made this video yesterday, one day before this news came out.
I remember when they were offering burger meals, concert tickets, Krispy Kreme donuts, even lottery cash prizes for you to get a jab. They were like, the country literally said you could get a shot and a snack. Okay, they were like, you can get this whole 5G upgrade and a whole meal. Can you imagine? That was my first red flag. I was really side-eyeing it like, why do y'all have to market the meds? Like, if it's for the betterment of your overall health, like, why aren't people running to get it? Because really, we didn't know what was going in our bodies. And they were really out here just like, yeah, you can get a burger, a drink, and fries. You can even supersize it. We might even give you 2 meals. And people were going crazy like it was a Popeye chicken sandwich. And then shortly thereafter, they had the monkeypox, and they were like, oh my gosh, look at people's skin. It had people terrified. All of a sudden, they were like, yeah, go to this drive-thru, and you could get another jab. And then shortly thereafter, everything just disappeared, and you never really heard about it again. Now, this is all for entertainment purposes. I can't confirm or deny any of this. I'm just making jokes. But isn't that just interesting? They really were out here like, yeah, you can get a whole meal. You can get some donuts. You can get lottery tickets. Marketing the meds. A wild time to be alive.
So, yeah.
Underwater base spotted off the coast of California near Los Angeles was scrubbed from Google Earth, right? And as we're seeing here right now is an outline of what's been scrubbed away on Google Earth. And if you look above, that's what was there pre-2016 up until modern day. It's been removed and it looks like almost like a doorway or a chasm. Now this is something that is quite frequent that happens on Google Earth, where there's something peculiar that gets found under the surface of the water, much like the Malibu anomaly, things of that nature, where there's kind of these little chasms and doorways which was then scrubbed completely off Google Earth. So is this a artifact in nature, or is this something actually genuinely anomalous? Now, in California alone, the amount of UFO and strange sightings of things coming in and out of the ocean is almost in the thousands. August in the US alone, there's about 2,000 UFO sightings reported, and it's just increased and increased and increased. So, Is this something anomalous or something easily explained?
That video came from Interstellar Discussion, and there has just been so much on Google Earth that people have seen and captured, and then when they go back, maybe months later, it's no longer there. It's scrubbed. So I can definitely see their secrets being shown on Google Earth and them having to come back and saying, we have to scrub that.
The unfinished obelisk in Egypt. That was by far the largest obelisk that they had ever created, okay? More than double the size of the biggest one.
Right.
Meanwhile, in Easter Island, the largest moai ever that was being created, like 2 to 3 times bigger than any of the moai that are there, was being taken out of the host rock, just like in Egypt. Meanwhile, you go across the world to China. You go to a place called Yangshan Quarry in China, and they were in the middle of taking out the largest blocks in human history. Some of them weighed like well over 1,000 tons. Meanwhile, you add one more, Baalbek, Lebanon, and the quarries there, they were taking out the largest that they'd ever done, and they never made it out of the quarry. What you have in common with all of these locations from everywhere around the world is that the civilization was in the midst of creating the largest that they had ever created of these structures, which means that they're at the height of their civilization because they were taking on the biggest projects they'd ever done globally. Everyone was. And then all of a sudden, the work stopped out of nowhere and they just vanished. That tells us a few things. It tells us, one, they probably were caught off guard somewhat, or they wouldn't be taking on massive projects right before they're about to be destroyed. And two, the scope of these events must have been so severe that most of them must have perished.
And it just makes you wonder if this is indeed true, because this is pretty interesting. Whatever may have wiped out previous civilizations because they were getting too ahead of themselves, is it possible they are controlling governments today and making the certain moves we see today, technologies and so forth. But in any case, thank you so much for watching. If you like this channel and you want to see more, please subscribe. If you're already subscribed, please like, as any engagement does help the channel grow. Once again, thank you so much for your support.